Road Show, episode number 261. It's the end of days here in Las Vegas.
It's sad that you joke about it because we could literally be saying that next episode.
Oh man, I look. Well, let me just say, John Morgan, Cold Coffee here at the Casa de Cold Coffee, the expansive grounds of Las Vegas. It is actually a beautiful Thursday afternoon outside. It's getting into evening, but not a lot of clouds in the sky. It's pretty warm. We got the window open. The expansive grounds, the pool here is looking nice and clear and clean. And
59 degrees or 60 degrees,
bad,
depending on where you're at.
a little chilly, but you can't really complain
It's
about
good
it.
weather. It's
Good weather.
It's good.
But it's the damn end of the world out there, man. It is crazy. Listen.
You know, if the strip's empty, it is the apocalypse.
Dude, so listen, man. Driving by to get from where I live to the Casa de Cold Coffee, I mean, obviously, to get to the expansive grounds, you got to drive a distance.
You got to drive so far.
Oh, man.
It's
part of it involves
gated
driving.
Community,
tough,
minus
man.
the gates.
Security. Oh, there's lots of gates. It's just that this is not where you'd expect them to be. But no, I have to drive by the Strip, and it is crazy to see, you know, all the signage. It's just like, hey, we look forward to welcoming you back. You know, all the big marquees are just like, hey, everybody get healthy.
Womp, womp. If they could play a noise, it would just be womp.
That's it,
womp.
man. All the parking lots that you can see, the parking structures are all empty.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's wild, man. It's a wild situation that we're in right now. Again, you know, we've committed to not being incredibly coronavirus heavy because we want to have a little entertainment, but it is real life.
Is that still
man.
going on? Is that still going on?
I'm telling you, man.
I swear we talked about it last week. It can't be going on.
It's got to be done by now.
It's got to be done by now.
It just seems to be getting worse if we're being honest, man. So it's a unique situation, man. I mean, from us, look, to be truthful, it hasn't impacted our lives incredibly, right? I mean,
I did stop going to the gym, you know, because all the public content.
Of course.
You know, I was like, whoa,
I
better cut that out.
I was years ahead of the curve on that one. My wife actually, before I came over here today, she's like, has he been good about, like, you know, social distancing? I'm like, Cold Coffee's been social distancing for years. I mean, that dude doesn't leave his house. He don't talk to nobody, man. Like, I'm like, trust me, he is safe. Everything is good.
If they're in a fight week that I'm at, I'm here.
That's it.
I'm here.
I mean, you know, the biggest thing that's impacted my life is that, like, I can't sit down and wait for my wings at B-Dubs. I got to pick them up to go. So we've been fun.
Just be thankful that you can still do that.
Oh,
just
God.
be thankful.
I was going to say, we've been very, very fortunate. I am trying to, you know, again, normal social distancing. My son's at home all the time. No school. I mean, we're definitely staying inside. We go out and walk around a little bit, but, you know, we're staying away from people. We're not doing social things. We're doing everything.
We haven't shared any beers. That's
right.
good.
No.
We're good 3 feet across from each other.
No fist bumps when we came in. No nothing like that.
I think I handed you sanitation.
You handed me a sanitizer. That's what happened. We came in. You're like, here you go, bro. Wipe yourself down. Get yourself clean. I was like, man, normally you do that when I'm leaving, not when I'm getting there. You're like, clean up, you slut. So yeah, it was. It's been a little wild. But hey, you know, life carries on, and we're here. We're enjoying a frosty beverage, and I don't know, man. Hopefully, a little bit of normalcy. I mean, I think that's what we're all craving, right? Like the world is definitely changing, but I think we're all craving a little bit. And I'll be honest, man. I normally I'm dreading having to drive over here to your place, man. I'm like, why can't that lazy son of a gun come down to my place? I know the expansive grounds.
My car doesn't work. You know, the car doesn't work.
I'm always coming to the expansive grounds. I mean, my grounds aren't quite as expansive, but, you know, they're not bad. But I was actually looking forward to, I don't know, man, just getting out and just shooting the shit with you, to be honest with you.
You know, it's you know, even though D is my age, it's probably good to get away. You probably have to do the kid talk all day long, and now you can kind of throw some more F-bombs and just talk a little more. And it's you have to always be on. I think if your kids are on, you always have to be on. You're always making sure he's taken care of. He's whatever. I mean, you can come here and I know you don't worry about if I'm taken care of.
No, that's the part. Yeah, definitely not. You're actually dead right. Even though you're not a parent, I think that's the hardest part about this. Like, I love my kid. I mean, you know that, too. Yeah. I love my son, man. I love him so much. But there are times where, man, you just want a little quiet or a little peace or like zone out a little bit, or you're in the middle of something, work-wise or whatever. And,
Yeah.
we're in this unique situation. I feel bad for kids right now, man. They're not getting to run around with their classmates and have fun. They're having to do little Skype calls. My kid's taking it so well, but you're right. That is the part. It's just like realizing, you don't want them to come into the office and just be like, bro, go away, like I'm working. No. They're struggling right now. They're not getting to leave this house at all. You got to be on
because they need the interaction as well. Because if they're sitting at the house, I mean, they can only play with their toys, or, I mean, I'm sure some are loving it if they're getting their extra Xbox time or whatever. But I know it is tough that for a lot of parents to have to sort of make sure they're still giving them that education. They're still keeping them focused and all that other sort of stuff. But I'm sure even for them, they want a break as well. So I'm sure spending the time and seeing you at home is probably completely rare for Eli to be able to have you around and stuff for so long. It's kind of neat. I've been seeing a lot of the social pics, and it's definitely an ongoing thing. I'll see people working from home and they have their kids studying off to the side. And it's kind of neat to see all that happening. But I'm sure after a while there's going to be a point where the people that are used to doing their work want to just focus on work and don't want to always have to answer a question off to the side or whatever, So I guess I have that luxury not having the kids that I can, during the day when it's just me here at the house, it's nice. I love the fact of just being able to do my stuff. So I'm sure a lot of parents at home now are probably like, man, what I would pay for a bit of alone time.
Well, that's it. He comes in the office and he wants to talk and he wants to play, and I'm trying to work and it just remembering like, dude, this is an incredibly unique situation.
Yeah.
Don't be annoyed. Don't be frustrated. Yep. And really, don't even just be like, hey, Daddy needs some alone time. Like, go away. No, you know what, man? Put work aside. Unfortunately, like our whole team at MMA Junkie, I haven't seen anybody yet go like, where are you at, bro? You know what I mean? If you don't answer your Slack for 15 minutes or whatever, nobody says anything. It's like, we get it. We're all doing stuff. So
when you think about this moment, like this is a moment in time that this is going to be a huge part of their life. And we talk about it now, and we're all sort of just dealing with the day-to-day thing. But this is something 20, 30 years when they're an adult, they'll never forget it. And this is going to be a huge point for your kid growing up or anybody that has kids. So as much as there's those moments where there's probably like you do want the alone time, do realize that these memories that are being formed in this point are going to be with them for the rest of their lives. Everybody's going to always look back and be like, remember that time? Remember when this happened and we all dealt with it?
It's like the only other event that we've had like this is 9/11, right? Where we all know exactly where we were. Yeah. We all know exactly what was going on. We all remember, and this is obviously a much longer stretch of time.
I was gonna say because you had that and you dealt with it. This is like every day. You wake up and you're back.
No matter what happens, whether life goes back to being exactly the way it was a month ago, which I don't believe it's going to.
Yeah.
But even if it does, we'll never forget this. So interesting times. All right. Well, listen. Big news right now, no question about it. Jon Jones today arrested for DUI.
No.
I know.
He
shocking.
did something?
Crazy, right? I know. I mean, here's what's
Thank you, Jon Jones, for making a slow news day a better news day.
I mean, that was like the biggest joke, right? Like everybody was putting on Twitter. It was like, oh, look, with sense of normalcy, like Jon Jones got arrested,
Oh, that's bad.
I was joking with our good buddy Oscar Willis from the Mac Life. I was like, look at Jon Jones. He took one for the team here, man. He knows they were all bored and we got nothing to talk about. Right. So he went and got arrested just so we'd have some coverage. I'm like, this man is a saint.
Yes.
No, it's unfortunate. And I got to say, I mean, first off, there's a lot of ways to look at this. First off, can you imagine, Dana White, the brass at the UFC, knowing what they're trying to do right now with UFC 249, knowing that they're trying their damnedest to make this thing happen, and then this pops up when everybody's supposed to be locked up in their homes. I mean, that had to be an absolute nightmare for UFC execs. And
could have been worse.
Well, you're right. It could have been worse.
It was an isolated incident where it's just himself. It could have been a lot worse if there was somebody else. If there was a victim, then the UFC really has to step in.
That's true.
Completely
so it's not like a DUI accident or something. That would be even
Dana,
worse.
By it being just Jon dealing with Dana can easily just say, we're just going to let the legal process handle itself. That has nothing to do with us. No one was harmed. Should he have been home? Yeah, sure, but he's not injured. Nobody got hurt. And this is one of the things that always drives law enforcement and everybody crazy is that, the victimless crime, like nobody's hurt, so it's not that bad. And, and ultimately in the grand scheme of things, it could have been much worse. So
I would agree with that. Now, here, I would agree with that to a point. Now, I'm saying we're sitting here drinking a couple of frosty beverages. So I'm
hashtag frosty beverages.
Hashtag frosty beverages. I'm going to be the last person to stand in judgment of Jon Jones or anybody else for that matter and be like, can you imagine that this gentleman went out and got intoxicated? What is wrong? I'm not that guy. By the way, aggravated DUI is what it's called, which means that his legal limit of alcohol was 0.16, which is twice over the legal limit of 0.08. Now, I will admit also, I don't even know what 0.16 means in terms of how it affects your body or how
That's
drunk,
quite a bit.
quote unquote, you are at that point.
In a lot of states, it's like 0.08.
Right, it's 0.08,
which is like a beer.
It's 0.08 in New Mexico. He was at 0.16. But here's what I don't know. What scares me a little bit, man. I mean, there was a gun in the car, and what started the whole report was a report of gunfire, of a shot fired. Now, he's saying when the police came up to him and talked to him, he said, "I have no idea what happened there," and maybe he doesn't. I mean, the from what I understand, the gun was under the seat, and I don't even know if the magazine was in it because they were listed as two separate items, so maybe they're apart. But I don't know. I just say it would be one hell of a coincidence for a shot to be fired and a police officer to walk that way. And just happened to find him.
They said the police officer heard it?
The police officer is who heard it and went to investigate. It was not a call. It wasn't a report of a gunshot. It was a police officer hearing a gunshot, and he went that way and he happened to see Jones. That is scary. And if he was intoxicated,
that's bad timing on his part.
That's what I'm saying. It could be one hell of a coincidence. Maybe he had nothing to do with the gunshot whatsoever.
Yeah.
But if he did. And again, I'm not saying he did. It's all under investigation. I don't fault the guy for being drunk. Now, drunk driving, come on, man. And I'll get to that in just a second. Drunk driving, of course. I don't fault the guy for going out and getting drunk. That's on him. But if he did fire a shot or was handling a firearm for any reason, that's bad.
Yeah, well, tequila, mezcal, all that shit, man. You're that's a whole different buzz, man. That's a whole different world. So, I mean, you could temporarily lose your damn mind on some stuff like that. And I will tell you, as a young youth growing up in my wilder, crazy days, I had plenty of times probably going out and getting drunk and every once in a while popping off some fucking rounds out of a car.
Seriously?
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, usually it was out in the middle of fucking nowhere. I mean, this is Ohio, and you can drive out in other areas.
Yeah, he's not in the middle of nowhere. He's in the middle of downtown Albuquerque.
Yeah.
It's not like he's even. I mean, you could go on the outskirts of Albuquerque, and it's like Vegas.
And he probably would have did himself better if he did that way, because he probably could have popped off a few rounds, released whatever pent up, just energy that he had, and it would have been no harm, no foul.
Right.
But if you do it in an urban area, that's pretty dumb.
It's in a very urban area.
But yeah, I mean, I've done that. But that's why when I heard this, I just laughed. I was like, dude, I got that out of my system when I was like in my teens, bro. Like, you're a grown ass man. Like, come on.
And again, we don't know if he did fire the shot, but I'm just saying that scares me. Look, I know I'm from Texas, so maybe all right, everybody from Texas. I don't have a gun. I don't own a gun.
Yeah.
And I will be honest, like, guns scare me to a degree. You know what I mean? Because I understand, like, you make a mistake with them, and they are lethal.
Sure.
So to think of somebody like, hey, look, I get fairly intoxicated on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah.
But I don't handle firearms at the time, and that's, again, we don't know if he did it, but if he did, that's great. And I'll tell you,
but there are also different breeds of people. Like, I mean, like these are fighters. These are adrenaline guys. These are guys that push themselves to crazy limits. So the fact of being hopped up, and if you're in a crazy, wild, good, fun mood where you're on some mezcal or tequila or whatever, some people it's whiskey. You know, if you got that buzz and you just feel like you're just invincible and just having fun, and then your brain just says, hey man, let's just pop a couple rounds. And if nobody's saying my property was damaged, if nobody was saying I was out walking and I heard something zoom by my head, more than likely it's just firing.
Bro,
you know,
if Jon Jones' attorney is listening to this right now, he is going to be trying to get you on the trial so bad. Like, bro, you should definitely.
But this is coming from a guy that owns firearms and actually likes shooting them and stuff. But not that I make it like if for somebody to do this, it was very risky and very stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, here's the other thing.
it just doesn't seem like he lost his mind. He probably thought it was all good fun and just made an honest mistake and in a wrong place, wrong time.
Wasn't trying to shoot at somebody.
Wasn't trying to shoot at somebody. Wasn't trying to damage something.
We don't know that, but you're probably right.
You don't know that, and like I said, there's it's all alleged, but I'm just speaking from my own crazy youth and what I did in wild times.
Well, here's the other thing that I'm kind of dawns on me or occurs to me is that a lot of people are saying, like they've said every time he gets arrested, hey, maybe this will be the thing that Jon realize he's got to fix some things, got to change some things, and that's all well and good. Of course, yes, we hope that this is the moment he has a realization, but he hasn't had a realization up to this point. But here's what bothers me is that I think a lot of people probably, when they say that, what they're saying is, let's get his substance abuse under control, let's get his alcohol abuse under control. To me, there's something else here, man, because the guy, I mean, it's been said almost jokingly, why don't you pay for a driver? Why don't you pay for, I mean, obviously he could pay for Uber, but he doesn't want to do that. But at the very least, he can employ a driver full time. He has the means.
Imagine
to do
your
this.
Uber driver just drinking your fucking bottle in the back. You're like, hold on, bro, roll the window back, roll the window down real quick.
Pop a cap,
pop a couple shots off.
Is
that cool? I'll give you 5 stars.
It's just, I mean,
I'll give you 5 stars.
He could keep himself out of trouble by having a driver, and he can absolutely afford to do so. No question about it. He makes enough money to do that.
Yeah, if it gets to the point where you can't not drink and go out and do something like, you should probably employ a driver.
To me, it just seems like even more than just alcohol abuse. It's like he could sit at home and get hammered. You know what I mean? That's not hard. If it's really just like he's addicted to alcohol, he could sit at home and drink. I don't know, man. He
doesn't seem like the homebody type.
No, he doesn't seem like the homebody type. I don't know, man. I just, especially right now, dude, in the middle of this pandemic where everybody's supposed to be on lockdown.
Especially when he was like, do your part or whatever his Instagram was the other day. Stay away. Go. Well, I mean, he was by himself. He's staying true to that. He was by himself.
Bro,
he was by himself.
Definitely going to be part of the jury on this thing, man. They're going to find a way.
Let the man go free.
They're going to
just
find
popping
a way.
off a few rounds. In fact, he was just doing his part to order more ammunition from a local business that needs the business right now because no one's buying ammo at all. That's not true.
That is not true at all. There is no ammo available.
You can't find ammo anywhere.
It's funny you kept mentioning, of course, the tequila mezcal. Not to joke about this because obviously it is a very serious matter.
So it was mezcal, which there is a difference between.
Yeah, it was El Recuerdo mezcal.
All mezcal is a type of tequila, right? But not all tequila is not mezcal. Is that correct?
All tequila is made from the blue agave plant.
Okay.
Or from the agave plant, I should say, not necessarily the blue agave, but from the agave plant. And I don't believe that mezcal is.
I think it is.
I don't know the full differences.
I'll look it up while you're talking right
but
now.
Anyway, I will say this. It was Jorge Masvidal's mezcal, El Recuerdo.
Awesome.
And I did say it. But they have the same management group, so maybe this is why it didn't happen. But I would say it would have been pretty savage social media if Jorge Masvidal had literally just tweeted today. Nothing else. No pictures. No nothing. No hashtags. Just enjoy responsibly.
It says mezcal, looking at Wiki, is distilled, and it is from
the agave plant as well?
Yeah. I think tequila has to come from a certain region or a certain something to be.
That's right. It has to come from the state of Jalisco.
Yeah, whereas mezcal is from agave, but can be from other
I think you're right about
places
that.
or something like that.
I used to be more educated on this when I was in the Mexican food business.
Yeah, I do love me some tequila, man. But I like the silvers as opposed to the like aged, more reposado ones,
where they're more smoky. And
it's like a little
flavor to them.
Yeah, it's got a different taste to it. Like Silver Patron. Before I got on Jameson back in the day, Silver Patron was my jam.
Yeah, the añejos are more for sipping. The reposados, they kind of in between.
Yeah.
The silvers are great for margaritas. You really don't want to do a margarita with a reposado or añejo because it injects that kind of woody smokiness into it, which you don't want that.
You can
with
certainly
lime
shoot
flavor.
a silver though.
Yeah, you can.
Oh boy.
All right, UFC 249.
I'm totally craving tequila now.
Well, we can make that happen. UFC 249 is the big question right now, and I'm sure everybody wants to know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know where this thing is going to take place. A lot of people, media, other industry people, man, we've all been talking, texting. I've had a couple conversations with Dana. about it as well. He is being incredibly tight-lipped.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be out there. I have no idea. I can tell you that Dana. I mean, you don't need to hear this from me because I'm sure you've seen the IG lives and all those things. I mean, he's incredibly confident this thing is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I just have no idea where. I've been told that there are options domestically, there are options internationally. I wish I had more news than that. By the time this thing comes out, I know he wants to make an announcement this week. Maybe he'll make an announcement. But I'll just say right now, I have no idea where it is. I will say I'm planning on going. I had somebody hit me up on Twitter and said, "Hey, are you planning on being there? Are you planning on going? Are you worried?" And I will say this: the way I stand right here, right now, as of this Thursday evening that we sit down to record the show as we always do, I'm planning on being there, man. I'm planning on going to cover it. And
well, the whole country should be open by then, right? Easter.
That's what Trump says.
Easter's the week before that. It should all be open.
That I don't believe. I do believe that Trump would like to see that, and I do understand. I will actually say this. I do understand what Trump is saying about, listen, the solution can't be worse than the problem. I mean, I think that kind of, it's a little callous, but it does kind of express a little bit what I've been saying all along, is that, like, listen, we do have to find a way to carry on. Like, we can't pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We can't pretend that life can be the same,
yeah.
but we do have to find a way to carry on. So I do understand that point.
Yeah,
I do think he's being a little aggressive.
We can't keep spending. We're spending a lot, and we're not bringing in. Like, the economy can't spend out nonstop without stuff coming in. So the wheel at some point has to get going again.
I do agree with that. I don't know if Easter's a little aggressive. So here's what I'm saying is that as of now, I'm planning on being there. So that means that MMA Junkie will have full coverage of the event, provided it happens. I have been saying this though.
I will give you wipes.
Give me wipes. I have been saying this though. I do throw out the caveat that this thing has changed the world so fast that I cannot even sit here and pretend like I know what the world is going to look like on April 18th. So I've been kind of, joking about it, saying if it looks like The Walking Dead out there, and I'm being silly about it, but I will say I'm intending on being there. However, I do throw out the caveat that I will continue to monitor situations, and if I feel uncomfortable, then I'll have to tell my employer that I feel uncomfortable, because I mean, A, we don't even know where it's going to be yet, and B, we don't know where, what that place is going to look like once we know where it is.
And there's calls. There's calls that people say, like, shut down domestic travel, shut down whatever. I mean, if it gets to the point where they're like, sorry, we don't have TSA agents to put you through, we're not operating flights. And depending on where it's at, what if that means, okay, well, the event's going to be here, you have to drive yourself, to X location. I mean, like, we don't know what things are going to be like at that point. We trust that it's going to be the same, but there are some realities that might not, have presented themselves, and we don't even think about that. But if it comes to the point where they're like, sorry, sir, you can't have interstate travel in an air vehicle because we don't have air traffic controllers, we don't have TSA agents, and we just don't know what it's going to look like at that point.
I mean, and that might, like, normally if this was a month ago and you said that, I'd be like, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Now I'm going like, that could actually happen.
Yeah. Don't we still have, like, a tower shut down at McCarran?
I believe so.
I think there's, like, a tower shut down. And I was reading the other day about TSA agents that were affected. I mean, it's and I feel bad for those people, because part of me was like, oh, we need some sense of normalcy. We still need to be able to go to the airport and go. But here I am telling them, like, you, sir, I want you to deal with thousands and thousands of travelers all day and have one of them possibly infected, just so we can still have normal life, and I feel bad for doing that, and it sucks for them to be in that position, because we want them to be them, and it doesn't feel fair by any means. I want to be able to say, go home, like, let's just get rid of it. But once we start going down that road, you could feel the doom and gloom that just feels like it's at arm's reach for us, that we are so close for things to really, our whole life to really change. It's already changed a lot, and it just feels like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop and have it to get really bad when they just say, folks, stay home, 30 days, come back out. If you're not going to the grocery store or to get gas or to whatever, you're not allowed to leave your house, and it's scary.
It's weird, man.
And it still could happen.
It's weird. I know. It still could happen. So a lot could happen between now and UFC 249, but I will say, I've said all along, I mean, look, the world has changed. If we go to 249, certainly going to have to be incredibly aware of social distancing and sanitation and as we travel, right? No question about it. On fight week. Media day. I don't know. Will we even have a media day? At the very least, we're going to make sure we're at least 6 feet away from the fighters. We're going to make sure we're
It'll probably
spaced
media
out.
scrums out. They would have
Scrums
to be,
have
right?
gotta be gone.
Or just be bulk scrums.
Yeah.
Like where you put your mic stand, so the media is at least 3 or 4 feet in front of the mic stand. The fighters behind it. There's your 6 feet of distance.
And then we're going to have to not
no
be
one-on-one,
shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, no one-on-ones.
Yeah.
We can't be shoulder to shoulder in the scrum. We're going to have to spread out a little bit. We're going to have to change it. I mean,
place your cameras and back away.
That's it, man. We're going to have to be careful about this stuff. I mean, we're really going to have to do that. So, again,
it's crazy.
That is what I say. I do think we have to find a way to carry on, but I do think we have to also realize that we can't carry on in the way we were, because that's not, all these recommendations that are being made, they're not crazy. Like they're legitimate, real recommendations.
Imagine you're there on fight week. The fighters in the UFC office sitting in front of a laptop. You guys are all there on site or in the hotels, all using your laptops to connect in. Like everybody's doing
like
the Zoom,
yeah,
and the huge thing. I could see where that would be a way that they'd be like, okay, we can still provide interviews, but at that point, you don't even need to be there.
Well, I was going to say, maybe that changes it to the fact that we're like media doesn't go to events anymore. Like maybe there is no need for media to be. I mean, if they're willing to do that and set it up, I mean, now granted, the moderation of who's asking a question and when, that gets difficult over Zoom. I'm sure everybody's seen the social media clip of the poor woman that went to go pee while she was on the business meeting.
That was awesome. That was so awesome.
So ridiculous. I'm sure that's made. I mean, there would be
who doesn't
problems.
just walk away from your computer? If you have to go, just walk away. Like she was like, there could be some great stuff that is. I don't want to miss one bit of this meeting. Literally, I would never think about dragging my laptop in there. If I had to go to the restroom, I'm just going to go to the restroom.
I'll be right back.
People will just see your empty chair for a second, but she went ahead and decided we could see everything.
God bless her.
She looked good too.
Oh,
I was like, thank you. It could have been worse. People would rather see her on the shitter than me. Not pretty.
I can guarantee you that is true. That's 249. Like I said, nothing really, unfortunately, revelations there. Like I said, I've had a couple
still playing
times.
like it's happening.
Everybody behind the scenes at the UFC is planning like this thing is happening. They're confident. Dana's confident. I just have no idea where it's going to be, and for the time being, I'll tell you, I'll be there. Junkie will have full coverage. If the world changes between now and then, which it absolutely could, I will change it. I did want to say one other thing about this whole carrying on with the schedule and people getting ready. I do think, and we've all been talking to a lot of fighters. I mean, look, man, at MMA Junkie, we've had to embrace new technology this week, which has actually been good. You've been helping out all this the writers on the staff, interview people. Everything's been done. We said Zoom. This is another type of software that we're using, where we're doing kind of a video conferencing type thing. The radio guys have done it. Danny Segura's done it. I think Mike Bond is scheduling some stuff. Hanoun has done it. I mean, everybody.
Nolan's done it.
We're all taking part in it, right? So it's cool. I mean, we're staying in touch with these fighters, but what I wanted to say is that, like, as we continue to talk to these fighters, and again, I think all of us want to talk about MMA, but you have to talk about coronavirus and how it's affecting people and how people are preparing for fights. And it is very clear that, it's impacting everyone. Everyone's having to make decisions of how they prep and how they get ready. And I want to say that I think as we move forward, assuming that the UFC does get back to full schedule like Dana White is promising, that you can't apply a blanket rule to everybody of like, well, I think that dude's weak because he didn't fight, or I think what I'm saying in particular, Aljamain Sterling has made it clear. He's like, dude, I'm not taking a fight right now. There was a report that he was fighting Corey Sandhagen, and we know the UFC was trying to put that fight together. And Aljamain has said, look, I'm not taking a fight right now. Like, I can't get to my gym, and why would I do that? And then you got other people like Gilbert Burns who's saying, like, dude, I'll fight anybody, everybody, and you're a bitch if you're not taking fights. The one thing I will say, I think it's very, first of all, it's up to each individual and their comfort level. You know what I mean? Just how they feel. That's important. And the other thing, too, is that, I mean, Aljamain especially is in that tricky situation where he's worked his way up to, like, damn near number one contender status, and it's been a battle to get there. And he is in such a delicate position of, if I lose a fight right now, how far do I set myself back financially? How far do I change my career versus other people that are just like, hey, I kind of want to fight right now. So I guess what I'm saying is, I would encourage everybody right now, if we are lucky enough to get going again, if we are lucky enough to get the schedule back in full strength, to not hold a blanket rule for or against anybody that says, I want to fight, I don't want to fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be an individual situation. And I think, normally, that dude's ducking so-and-so, or that dude's not. Nah, man, right now, I think you got to give anybody a pass that says, hey, this is just not the right situation for me.
I agree. And I think you have to understand, we even heard, we heard audio of when Dana gave his speech to the employees, when they were starting to embrace the fact of, this is happening. If you guys want to go home, you can.
Were we supposed to say that?
You don't really need to. Well, I did. It's not like I'm playing it. I don't care. Whatever. We heard the audio.
I thought we were just going to say we were told how it went.
Fuck it. We heard it. But if he's telling his employees and he's kind of giving it to the internal people, like, you guys need to be here. Imagine what he's telling a bunch of independent contractors.
Right.
You guys have to be here, I don't know. I agree with the fact that it should be a decision that should be up to the fighters, whether they're comfortable or not, because I want the same decision on myself. Mm-hmm. If somebody says, hey, we have an event to cover, and somebody says, we need to cover this, are you comfortable? I want to have that right to say, I'm not comfortable, or I'm comfortable as well. And these guys, just like anybody else that's a human being, should have that decision and shouldn't have any repercussions or bad thoughts about it.
Don't judge them. Don't
judge. It's a shitty time right now. And this is life or death, folks. Life or death. This is not a matter of, hey, are you 100% or not, and you want to fight. There's real consequences, and if you have real people, other people in your life, if you're not a hermit like me for the most part, and you have people in your life, you have people you have to watch out for. You got to be smart about it. So no, we shouldn't be judging these fighters or anybody if they're not comfortable and they want to shelter themselves and be safe and be smart about it. Because what we realize, this is not a hoax. This is not a political game that one party is playing to affect the other. I mean, like, this is real stuff, real life or death. So who am I to try to force some fighter to do something for my entertainment? I mean, I appreciate it because it helps my job that we have something to do. But in the
not to mention just our sanity of having something to do.
But imagine if somebody was like, hey, this is going on. It'd be like telling every video guy, I know you're video capable. There's a war going on and wherever, and you have to go do this because your skill set puts you in the right the right state that you
USA
could be,
Today
you
has
could be
transferred you to the news division, and we need you on the battlefield.
Go.
Yeah.
No?
Nah, I'm good.
Actually, I am kind of into that, but I would want to have that decision.
That's it. That's all I say. If anybody turns down a fight right now or pulls out of a fight, do not judge them. Do not let that be an asterisk on their career. Don't let it be something on their reputation, man.
Put yourselves in their shoes. If your employer told you, I mean, some people are being forced to do it depending on what your jobs are. I mean, and that's probably good. But in this day and age, I can see where some people are like, just be grateful you have a job and you're doing it, because we're at the highest unemployment we've ever had. Crazy. But this is still, remember, this is entertainment. These folks are doing this for our entertainment. This is what they choose to do. They are not obligated. These are not the people that are making sure we have food products and that making sure that, medical supplies are happening and things like that. They're not doing that sort of stuff. I mean, this is purely an entertainment sport. Let them make the decisions, and who am I to put anything else on them?
Completely agree. All right, listen, should say, if you like what you're hearing, do us a favor, man. Make sure wherever you get your podcasts at, especially if it's the Apple application, because that's what I use. Make sure you're logged into it.
They should pay you for how much you push it to the Apple. I know,
it's the only one I use, and that's where I read the reviews. So I don't go to the other ones. But make sure you subscribe. Make sure you rate us if you can. 5 stars, of course. We certainly appreciate it, or whatever the highest is on wherever you use it. And if you got some extra time, do us a favor and leave us a little bit of feedback, man. It would mean a lot to us. You could be like Pat Gilmartin, who said, 2 pros. Thank you for the years of podcasts every week without fail. Always a great primer for upcoming fights and great recaps when the and a half episodes. Thanks again. So glad cold coffee is on the mend.
Aww.
Cheers, guys.
Well, thank you, Pat.
Not only great feedback, recognizing that we have done this for 261 consecutive weeks, never taken a single week off. I appreciate that. And then also willing you back to health after your intensive surgery.
That's my extra favorite person right now. And Pat, I wonder if you're related to a Kelly Gilmartin that I went to high school with. She was cute. Kudos to you, Pat. You're probably a very,
like,
very
"That's my
good
sister,
looking.
shut
You're
up."
probably you're probably a very good looking individual then.
He's like, "Did you sleep with my sister?" And
God.
I should say, I should say, by the way, if you really like the show, do us a favor. Step your game up. Go to patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Help us out. You can join for. We got 3 different levels there for you. You can join up for just $3 a month. You could be a roadie, and at that point, you get access to all extra content that we got over there, including it's the exclusive home of the and a half. Well done, sir. Well
I just
done,
don't do
sir.
it. I don't do it as well. And a half.
Well done. It's an exclusive home of that. Now, of course, we're not going to have many of those right now, but we did have one after Cage Warriors 113, so that one's up there.
Thank you, Cage Warriors.
But once the UFC schedule gets going again, if UFC 249 happens as we're expecting it, that's where it'll be. We're also doing some other stuff over there. We're doing some additional content, taking some deep dives through our archives, our old hard drives, and sharing some stories. I
got one coming up now that the footage has resurfaced.
Yep. We got some things and some history lessons. I'm going to be sharing some fights. In fact, I'll share you something in just a little bit that I'm going to have on patreon.com as well. So there's fun stuff over there. That's the community. Just $3 a month you can join. There's also a $5 and a $10 level. And let me just say, if you take those highest levels, we appreciate you. We'll do everything for you at that point. You're basically directing the show at that point. You tell us what you want. You tell us what topics you want discussed, what questions you want to ask. We'll do it. So
we're going to do hopefully some live QAs for some of the upper tiers here soon. Now that we've been embracing more of the technology stuff, so for some of you upper tiers, you're going to have some good shit coming your way soon.
That's what's up. So think about that. We really appreciate it. All right, listen, let's get to a couple of interviews. Obviously, with not nearly as much news in the MMA world as a normal week, I did a couple lengthier interviews, and hopefully everybody's okay with that. The first one I did, I reached out to Andre Fili. He's got a movie coming out here in just a couple of weeks.
Did you get touchy-feely with him when you reached out?
I reached out, got touchy-feely with Andre Fili. He's going to be in a movie, Green Rush, which is, by the way, I have a little tiny speaking part in it. Basically, just like some voiceover work that's in there, so you'll actually hear my voice in there. Our boy Rick Lee.
They were probably recording in the neighborhood next door, and
well,
they're like, "I hear Morgan."
It's there. We might as well
throw credit.
Rick Lee was one of the writers on there, so he used to work with MMA Junkie as well. Good friend of the show. He was part of this process as well. But Andre Fili plays what is this character's name? Diego Beltran, who he described as a sketchy weed trimming cousin is what he described it as. But
that's awesome.
That
would be the most awesome title name on IMDb, weedy sketchy cousin guy.
Yeah, exactly. He said, I'll read you the plot. It says, the documentary chronicles the struggle of a unique group of marijuana farmers in Northern California over the course of an entire outdoor grow season. They remain subject to harassment and arrest by federal law enforcement agencies. So it's about the weed business, which Andre Fili might know a thing or two about. But I wanted to talk to him about that, and then just kind of get caught up, find out how he's dealing with all this crisis stuff, and then talk about his career as well.
Probably by smoking some weed.
He was probably a little bit of weed. He was certainly angry after his loss to Sadiq Youssef, man. I remember how frustrated he was. So anyway, just want to get caught up with him in his career. Here is Andre Fili.
What's up, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm just chilling, man. I'm just chilling back with my dog. My baby sister spent the night, a couple nights. We've just been hanging out, watching movies, so we're just chilling.
I dig it. Well, I was wondering if you still talk to MMA media, man. I thought you'd only speak to Hollywood media now, man. The movie's about to come out, right? You gotta go big time.
Yeah, people change, man. So you guys gotta start talking to my agent, my manager, your people are gonna have to get in contact with my people.
Are you excited though, man? I mean, I know that it's not like your life's ambition to be an actor, but to finally see this thing come out and people see it, is it kind of exciting for you?
Oh, it's definitely my life's ambition to be an actor, dude. Fuck around and do a couple more movies, you'll never see me fight again. No, I'm gonna. I have a lot of things I want to do in fighting still. I'm gonna be a world champion at some point. I'm working my ass off towards that. There's goals I want to accomplish. I have a lot to prove. I had a rocky couple years and found my footing a little better. So I got a lot to prove in the sport still. But acting is definitely something I want to do after I'm done fighting, or even at the same time, maybe towards the end. but it is exciting, you know. Like it's exciting. It's a step in a direction for me for sure. I've always wanted to do movies, and so getting to do my first one is like, it was exciting, but it's even more exciting that now people get to see it. You know, it's like finally, like, because it's cool that you do a movie, but like no one can watch it. You know, it's like you're just like, I did a movie, but like no one having seen it. You know, no one.
Right.
Like it doesn't really matter until people watch it. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I get that. So it's funny. I didn't know. I mean, it's hilarious. I think you told us, you know, when you filmed it, that you basically starred as a sketchy weed trimming cousin was the way you called it. But I didn't know you wanted to be an actor. I mean, did this thing kind of light that fire in you, or this was just you kind of getting to a goal?
Yeah, no, I've always wanted to act. I really love acting. I did drama in high school. I was not at all like a drama kid. Like I wasn't like your typical drama kid. I was like out running around getting in trouble and like getting in fights and stuff, but I really like enjoyed acting, and like so I did drama in school until it got to the point where you had to try hard, and like I just wasn't trying hard I wasn't trying hard in school at all. So I stopped doing drama. I basically stopped doing everything in school, but I always loved acting. I always wanted to act, and it was always something that I wanted to do.
That's cool, man. So did you do like plays and stuff like that? I mean,
No, I never did any plays. I never like I said, I was like, as much as I liked doing stuff in high school, I also liked not trying that hard, and I was kind of a punk ass little kid, so I didn't pursue it really very seriously. But it's something I've always wanted to do. It's like something that's always been on my list to do, and now I got to do it. So it's yeah.
That's cool. Is it easy? Is it hard? What's the process like?
Dude, it's easy. It's fucking awesome. It's so no one's punching you in the face or kicking you in the head, dude. It's so easy. Like, it's definitely long days, and it's a little intimidating because I was around a bunch of very legit actors, and I'm not a legit actor yet. You know, I just didn't want to be the guy that sucked. You know, I didn't want to be the athlete. I don't want to be the fighter guy they brought in and that blew it. You know,
yeah.
So you know, there was definitely some like moments where you were like, I had to take it real serious, you know, and I had to put a lot of effort into it, but it was always fun, and it was always pretty easy, you know, and it's also one of those things where like, it's the same as making music. Like even when you're doing it, you obviously don't want to fuck it up, but even if you do fuck up, like no one's gonna knock you out. You know, no one's gonna take half your money for, like, there's no judges that are gonna fucking see the fight wrong and take half your money. You know, like
right.
There's no the consequences of fucking up when you're making music or doing movies or anything else is so much less than fighting. That after fighting, it sort of gives you this like freedom to just not be afraid to fail.
That's awesome. So is it the same thing with like nerves or whatever? I mean, like everybody gets nervous before a fight. I imagine you get nervous on set, but is it that way? Like, dude, what's the worst that could possibly happen here?
Yeah, basically. You know, like you're just, you know, you take it serious and you like do the work and you make sure that you're ready for the scene that you're about to do, or that you make sure you've done your homework, and then you just fucking do your best, and you kind of pick up on cues from other people. It's the same thing as everything else. Like you just have fun. Like if I'm doing something, I'm having fun with it. I'm not tripping on it too much. Besides fighting is fun and also fucking nerve wracking. Acting is fun and there's only a little bit of nerves. Sorry, my mom just came to pick up my little sister, and she brought I have a bulldog, and she brought her bulldog over, and it's just fucking chaos in my house right now. So I'm trying to do this interview but also like make sure it's like two bulls in a china shop, dude.
Oh Jesus! Oh, you need to walk away for a second.
No, I'm good. I'm all right.
Cool. You talk about your fighting career. I mean, training right now. I mean, this is a weird world we're in right now, right? Being kind of locked up and told to stay home. Are you able to train or do anything at all right now?
Yeah, we've been doing little park workouts, small groups. Hold on one second. Sorry. Mm-hmm. All right, love you. Be safe. All right. Yeah, I'm doing little park workouts with a couple teammates, you know, and just kind of getting outside because it feels good. You can't be cooped up too much, but man, to be honest, I'm making sure I get training sessions in every day. But to be honest, dude, like, I fucking love quarantine. This is a fucking dream come true, dude. Oh, like, I don't want anyone to hear this think that I'm taking the coronavirus lightly. Like, yeah, I hope everyone's doing okay, and I hope that everyone heals up. And it's honestly, it's tragic. It's horrible for sure. But the way that it's affected me thus far, I have zero complaints, dude. Like I am just shamelessly binge watching shows and movies that have been on my list for years. I'm catching up on the stacks of comic books I have. I'm just sitting in my backyard drinking coffee, playing with my dog, like, and it's just completely acceptable for me to stay home and do nothing. And honest to God, dude, dream come true.
It is
like dream come true, dude.
I will say this, man. It's weird. Like, I'm with you 100%, right? Like, I don't want anybody to think I don't realize how serious this stuff is, but like, all being forced to slow down a little bit and just kind of chill. Like, for me, it's with my wife and my kid. I mean, it's a lot, that we're together like 24/7. But I don't know. Like, there is something kind of cool about it. Like, just getting to slow down a little bit.
Dude, people would think about if I asked you 6 months ago, like, what would you, like, how stoked would you be if I went, hey, dude, just take 2 weeks. Just take 2 weeks guilt-free and hang out with your family.
Yeah.
You would be so stoked on that. You'd be so stoked on it. Like, it's fucking awesome. Like, for the last week, I've done nothing but hang out with my dog, watch movies. I've gotten to hang out with my little sister, which I don't really get to do very much. I've gotten to read a bunch of comic books. I've still trained, like, once a day, gotten cardio in, gotten road work in. And then I come home and just kick it. I go to the park. Like, we do workouts at the park. It's like me and my buddies from the team. We still work out at the park. I skate the mini ramp a little bit. I run around with my dog. Like, it's literally, it's been so, everyone's friendly. Everyone is, like, on edge, but also they're like, wow, like, this is really nice to just not have to fucking do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah. That's great.
And it was scary for a while, like, walking to the grocery store and seeing people stock up and seeing people get all, take them all. It was scary seeing people, like, hoard stuff, and you could sort of feel the level of hysteria, You could feel the, like, doomsday prepper and everybody kicking in, and, like, you could just feel the panic, and it was scary, man, and it was sad to see, and I was worried about, I make decent money now fighting, especially for a single dude with no kids, but, there's families out there that can't physically, they don't have the means to stock up for the next couple of weeks, and so I was worried about how that was going to go for people, but I feel like, at least where I'm at, that first wave of hysteria kind of subsided.
Yep.
And then everybody just kind of like went and breathed out, and it's like, oh, so we're just hanging out. Like, as long as they don't declare martial law or some spooky shit happens, like, we're just hanging out. Like, we're just hanging out at home. Like, my sister is basically on summer vacation forever. Like it's really pretty fucking rad, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. It was scary at first, but I think we're all kind of settling in and finding a way to survive in it, man. So it's not bad. Talking about your training, man. I mean, obviously, I know your team Alpha Male for life. What's the setup over there now, man? How are things going? I know that, I mean, not necessarily just during this pandemic thing, but I mean, like, Uriah's busy and stuff. He's always been, like, not necessarily the head coach, but the leader. But I know he's got a family now, and he's got businesses and stuff. I mean, is he still a big presence in the gym, or how does the coaching structure work and all that?
Yeah, Uriah's there. Uriah's there every day, dude. I mean, every single day Uriah's at the gym, unless he's out of town. Which, he is out of town somewhat frequently, but I mean, I've seen him get off the plane and go straight to the gym. Like, he's at the gym probably still more than fucking anybody, really. Like, he's still a huge presence in the gym. He's still rolling at jiu-jitsu classes. He's still running practices occasionally. He's just such a part of the team. He's always on the mats, man. It's now he usually has his little daughter in his arms, It's the same thing with Castillo. Like, sometimes Castillo's little son will be in there, and, like, it's the same as it always was, man. It's like, it's such a weird thing to see everything like, everything is cyclical. Everything is just flowing. Like I was a little bro, and Faber and Castillo were the big guys,
right.
Like, they were the big name guys, and now they moved on to being, they retired from fighting, and they're dads and coaches and businessmen, and, like, now I have the young kids coming up to me asking me for advice, which is still kind of fucking weird. Which is still weird to me. I'm like, shit, I just figured things out, like, barely started figuring things out, like, a couple, not even all of it, just a couple things, like, recently, but people are coming up to me, like the young guys are asking me for advice, and there's new kids getting in the UFC, and like now I'm like the big bro all of a sudden, and I'm like, it's just cool to see this thing that Faber's built, and maybe it sounds kind of corny to people, but it's like it's this thing that's like bigger than any of us. It's like Faber's such a core part of it. Like without Faber, there isn't Team Alpha, obviously, but like without him, there would have never been the team. But I would say, like at this point, even without him, or without Danny, or without me, or without Chad, or without any name a person, you know, like it's bigger than any one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Faber left the gym for good right now, and we just like, hey, I have no interest in being on the mats for whatever reason. Like I'm gonna go do this other thing. Like there would still be a bunch of young, hungry kids every day at 9:30 every morning, and they'd be there on the mats working, you know. And that is like, I think that's a real testament to like what Faber's built, and you know what we've all sort of helped contribute to. Is like there's this thing that's bigger than any of us. And and there's a lot of other great fight teams, but I don't, and I can't speak on them because I've never really been there. But I don't know if the other teams are really like that. Like I don't know if the head of another team left, if it would still keep operating, if it would still mean enough to everyone that it would keep rolling. And I know that Team Alpha would, man. I know like it means so much to so many people, and you know it all starts with Faber, but really it's something that I feel like we all kind of carry.
That's awesome, man. So, talk about your own career, man. You know, obviously came up short last time out, and I don't know, man. I mean, I know nobody likes to lose, and you're definitely not one that likes to lose. But I remember seeing you leave the cage that night. You just looked especially pissed off to me that night, man. What kind of went through your head? What'd you take out of that fight, man?
I don't know, man. It was that one hurt bad. That one hurt bad, dude. I can't lie. I can't like pretend like, oh yeah, you know, you learn more from your losses. Like, man, fuck all that, dude. That hurt bad. I've learned a lot from the loss for sure, but that hurt bad, man. I thought I won. I thought I won the fight, but I also know like I had a better fight in me, and had I have just fought to my potential, it wouldn't have been. You know, had the whole fight looked like the third round, that there wouldn't have been any doubt. You know, there wouldn't have been any judges fucking it up or anything like that. So, you know, had I finished the fight, there wouldn't have been any bullshit. You know, so that, you know, and that's on me. Like that's on anyone else. That's the thing about fighting, is the finality of it. You know, like I really believe that I won that fight. But now forever, the record book will always just say like I lost that fight. It won't say, oh, I probably actually won round 1 and 3, or like, oh, a lot of people told me it was a robbery, or like none of that shit matters. You know, it's just like the record says that I lost, and dealing with that finality is hard as a fighter, because like you put your heart and soul into this shit, you know, and then you gotta just face the fact that you put everything you have into this thing, and it didn't work out, and it's fucked, man. It hurt bad.
It still sounds fresh. It still sounds fresh. It doesn't sound like you quite moved past it yet.
Dude, man, it feels fresh still. Like it hurts, you know. It hurts like that one especially, because I had a lot of traction going into that fight, you know, and people don't give a fuck about your last fight. They don't give a fuck about like how the number of the win streak. They only care. Like, man, to be honest, people are shallow. People aren't real. Like, there's very few real fight fans. There's very few real like people who understand the sport. People want a big number next to a little number. They want a big win streak. They want a big win streak. They want you know, like people who watch. It's like people. It's like I remember being in high school, and my best friend was a diehard Golden State Warriors fan, and they fucking sucked. And like, you know, like
yep.
I'd never seen anyone wear. I'd never, in Sacramento at least, never seen another person wear a Warriors jersey like ever. And then within the last couple of years, they were just like this incredible team, and you basically couldn't, like everything Warriors was sold out everywhere, because they were good. You know, people are shallow. People only give a fuck about a winner. And so, you know, it sucks to get this traction to go to be coming off a fight like beating a guy like Miles Jury, who, you know, I think Miles Jury's a really underrated guy. He was a top 15 guy forever. I beat him, I thought, pretty handedly. And then I knocked out Shaman Moraes, who's a really dangerous striker who'd never been finished in my hometown. It was the best night of my life thus far. I'm going into this Sadiq fight, and I'm excited to prove everyone wrong because they think Sadiq's going to knock me out. They think his power. They think this. He's an up-and-coming kid. You know, and I was so ready to win that fight, and I didn't perform the way I should have, and I still think I won the fight, but the judges didn't, and it's just, yeah, man, it fucking. If I feel like unless you've chased something and put your entire like soul into it, and then come up short, it's hard to understand the way that losing the fight hurts like that, you know. Yeah, but I'm excited to fight again, dude. I love this shit, you know. Like, I'll do this shit until I can't. I just I want to make good on my potential. I want to, all the people who invested in me and have stood by me and who see the potential I have and see that I'm a world champion, like caliber fighter, that I have the potential to be. Sorry, my dog's over there crying. He's over there whining. The timing was perfect. Come on, dude, you're making us look bad. Stop being soft. Yeah, man, the people who stood by me, who invested in me, I want to make that investment worthwhile, you know, for them and for myself. Like, I just want to get back in there and get a win, and I don't know, man. I just want to get back in there and get a win. If you would have told me when I was 19, and when I was 19, I wanted to be the greatest fucking fighter that ever lived, especially for small guys, you know. Like, I saw Faber coming up, and I was like, all right, I'm going to be the next that. Like, I'm going to be the next guy in a smaller weight class that just fucking cleans house, that, like, is the man, like, walks in a room and everybody knows he's the baddest motherfucker. Like, I want to be one of the greatest fighters that's ever lived. And if you'd have told me at 19 that I would be 30 years old and I'd be 20-7 in the UFC, like, I would just be, in most people's eyes, I'd just be a mid-tier UFC guy, I would be devastated, dude. Like, me, like, when I turned pro at 19, hearing, if you had a time machine to go back and tell me where I'd be right now, like, that kid would be devastated, dude. And that's basically who I am. So I'm still that 19-year-old kid. I'm just chasing my dream, man. I'm just trying to make it happen. And, you know, I'm going to, but the road is, it's a hard road, man. It's a hard way to make a living.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I was going to say, I mean, do you allow yourself at least a little bit of joy to be like, man, I am competing at the highest level of sport? I mean, that's obviously, no offense to the other organizations out there, but everybody wants to be in the UFC, man. I mean, it's the highest level, and you are here, and you're an established commodity. I mean, does that bring you any joy at all to say, okay, even if I'm not number one, I mean, I'm a hell of a lot, further along than I was as that 19-year-old kid?
Nah, man, not really. Doesn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound ungrateful. Like, I've worked for literally every single thing I have. Like, whatever financial stability I have, whatever happiness I have in my life, I fucking bled for. Like, fighting is all I've ever done. Like, I've fought for everything I have, and I'm thankful that it's worked out, and I'm thankful that I'm not in jail or working some dead-end job, which is statistically where I should be. Like, I'm thankful for the UFC. I'm thankful for all the things I have in my life. I'm thankful to be where I'm at, and that it worked out, and that my hard work paid off to a certain degree. But I don't really take any, like, I don't feel really anything about, like, being in the UFC, just being in the UFC or just being a guy. Like we talked about before, when I'm making music, like, it's fun, man. Like, I'm on stage and I'm putting my energy and my heart and my soul into it. But, like, if everyone thinks I fucking suck at music, like, that's okay. I do suck at music. Like, I'm not a good musician, dude. I'm cool with it. I'm good. I don't care. Like, I'm good with sucking at music. I like, every day we go to the park this last quarantine week and I'm training. There's a little mini ramp there, a little skate park, and I skate the mini ramp, and I fucking suck at skating, but I love skating. But I just do suck. Like, there's 12-year-olds there that are just shredding, and I'm, like, dropping in and, like, rock the fakie and, like, tail stall, and, like, I'm like one or two tricks and, like, all right, cool, I'm gonna hop off. Like I have 12-year-olds literally showing me up, like, Like, same thing with acting. I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, I mean, I care. Like, I don't want to suck, but I don't care that, like, I don't care that people aren't like, oh, he's the best actor I've ever seen. Like, I got time to do that. That's not my life's work. Like, I got a long time to make that happen. Like, fighting, dude, fighting's all I've ever wanted to do. My whole life, it's all I've ever wanted to do. Like, my whole entire fucking life, I love fighting. When I was a little kid, I wouldn't watch cartoons if they didn't have fighting in it. Like, I'd watch Batman. I'd watch fucking, I'd watch X-Men. I'd watch Ninja Turtles because they were all punching and kicking. I wouldn't watch Magic School Bus because there was no fighting. Like, all I cared about was little kids fighting. Like, all I cared about was fighting. And then I saw the UFC for the first time, and I was like, that's it. That's what I'm gonna do. Like, I knew it like 13. I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. Like, that's all I'm gonna do. So I don't care about sucking at shit that I actually do suck at. Like, whatever. I don't give a shit. Like, I fight people for a living. Like, that's all I care about. So it's like, it's the thing you give a shit about the most. If you're not the best in the world at that, like, what the fuck is the point? You know, like, that's my thought process. Like, I'm trying to be the best in the world at fighting, and I believe that I am, but I'm excited to go prove it. I just want this coronavirus to go away so I can go fight people and get some wins on my record.
So I was going to say, I mean, I guess we're kind of in a state of hold pattern right now, but I mean, what's the idea? Where do you want the journey to continue, man? Are you eyeing a date or a location or an opponent? I mean, how do you want this thing to get back in gear?
I'm trying to get on that May 16th card in San Diego if that still happens, which I really hope to God it happens. Because it's nice and close to home. San Diego's a dope city. California fans are the fucking best. I don't really give a shit about an opponent, man. I just want to fight the best guys in the world. Like, I genuinely just want to fight the best guys in the world, and I want to beat them. I want to get my hand raised. I want to show everybody and show myself like I'm the best 45er in the world. Like, I really believe that, and I know people will hear this and roll their eyes, and I know that people will like fucking comment and talk shit and tag me fucking losing this or like tag me. Well, like I know for a fact people like they're gonna roll their eyes and talk shit when I say I think I'm the best 45 in the world, but I really believe that I am, and I think I've shown flashes of it, and I just want to get back in there and really manifest and capitalize on this potential. Like, I've been training with the best guys in the world. I've beaten some of the best guys in the world already, and I just want to keep going.
Much respect, dude, man. I appreciate that drive, dude. I love that passion, man. I appreciate the time, man. I appreciate you catching up, man. I know it didn't mean to interrupt your family time there, but I appreciate it, man. Any other thoughts, messages, anything like that you want to make sure we get out there for you?
No, man. I just hope everybody stays safe and get to at least enjoy this time. Hopefully a little bit. I mean, I know it's fucked, but there are good things you can take from every situation. So I hope everybody stays safe. I hope everybody enjoys their quarantine at least a little bit. If you're bored at home, you can listen to my music on Spotify. My band's called Born Breach. You can mosh around in your living room in your underwear or something.
All right, that was Andre Fili. Listen, good to catch up with the man. I listen, I love his passion for fighting, man. I love his honesty. I love the way he believes in himself and the attitude that he has, and the way he says, look, I know haters are gonna hate, but man, that's the kind of attitude you have to have. That you can be the best in the world and that you're capable of great things. And I don't know, man. I like Andre a lot, man. I mean, Sadiq Youssef, no shame in losing that guy because I think he's an incredible talent as well.
Yeah, dude's a beast.
He really is, man. But I like Andre Fili, and I think there's I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of good days ahead of him. So
you sound like Touchy-Feely touched you inside
inappropriately.
You wish. He's a good-looking man. You wish he did.
He's a good dude, man. I appreciated his honesty, man.
That's a good dude.
All right, listen. So here was another interview I got to do. So this is great. This will mean a lot to me. So with all this going on, we're having to slow down a little bit, and I mean, listen, we can check in with every fighter on the roster, and we're doing a lot of that. Our staff is doing that. But I've been on that grind for a long time, and there was a chance to kind of slow down a little bit and look back. And so I had the idea, man. I wanted to reach out to Ken Shamrock and talk to Ken Shamrock because I don't think a lot of people realize the history of the way mixed martial arts worked, and that is there was an organization in Japan called Pancrase that actually launched before the UFC. They held 3 events before UFC 1, all in 1993, and Ken Shamrock fought on all 3 of those cards. And so while the UFC is certainly responsible for growing mixed martial arts into where it is today, they weren't the first brand. And, of course, there were brands even before this as well. But, I mean, just during that time frame even, Pancrase had launched a little bit before. And it's awesome now because you can see all the events on UFC Fight Pass. And there's so much to watch on Fight Pass. And right now we all have so much spare time. But I figured this may be a chance to kind of educate people that don't know about that time period, and maybe just kind of a blast, down memory lane, so to speak, with people that do understand that period. Now, Pancrase on UFC Fight Pass, I'll be honest, is kind of hard to access. They don't have it all cataloged as perfectly as they do with like UFC events, for instance, and understandably so, man. The digestion process of all that stuff that was on analog tapes to digital, man, it's not an easy process. But if you want to see the ones from 1993, search for Yes, We Are Hybrid Wrestlers, and you can find that on there, and you can see Pancrase 1. I think you can also, search in Fight Pass for Pancrase 1, Pancrase 2, Pancrase 3. This is partly responsible for my love of mixed martial arts, man. I used to order these things on VHS tapes from Full Contact Fighter, which was a lot of people probably even know a newspaper type format basically that would go out like once a month. I mean, this was before the age of the internet, man. You couldn't get results. There were some message boards and that sort of thing, but you really didn't get all the results. And so I used to get these VHS tapes. And the events at that point were months old, but I hadn't seen the results of them, so I'm watching them, and it's like fresh to me, and it was so cool. And I actually still have all those VHS tapes at my mom's house, man. I was like 14, 15 years old when it launched, and it's funny because she's always like, "Can I throw these away?" I'm like, "No, you can't. I don't have a VCR, but don't throw them away." So anyway, I wanted to talk to Ken. I mean, obviously he had a lengthy career, but really more just about that specific period, man, and what was going on there, and just kind of what his mindset was, and what the situation was like. And we ended up talking about UFC 1 as well a little bit, and I don't know, man. To me, just this time period gave me an opportunity to kind of slow down a little bit, I guess, and focus on the past. Reflect. There you go. So hopefully people like this. This was a conversation I had earlier today, actually, right before I drove over here today, with Ken Shamrock.
Hello.
Ken.
Yes.
How you doing, sir?
Good.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I've always been fascinated by Pancrase, man. It's honestly what got me into mixed martial arts in the early days. And man, this world's so busy, we never get to talk about it. So I just wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit, especially about those early days. And I heard the story I was always told is that you were involved in a shoot match in Japan, and the reaction to it was so positive that Masakatsu Funaki and Minoru Suzuki, they said, man, we got to start doing this instead of, the direction wrestling is going. And they came up with the idea for Pancrase. And I guess even Carl Gotch maybe helped them with the name. At least that's the story I've always been told. How much truth is that? How did this thing get going?
Well, that's a mystery. But here's what I do know, is that I was approached by Funaki that they wanted to start this new shoot group. And they wanted to make sure that I came with them. There's a few guys that they wanted to come because they know they could do the shoot style. Because I was a big fan in practice of shooting with Funaki, shooting with Suzuki, and then Takahashi came in. But when we were under the other regimes, they didn't like it. They were a little bit older. And they liked the softer style better. But myself and Aki, Suzuki, and a few of the young boys, we really leaned towards really getting after one another in practice. So when we went out and did the regular UWF matches, that we would be able to breeze through it real easy. We wouldn't get tired because we were so used to shooting on each other in practice. And then they did with the Fujiwara went in and had a match with Don Nielsen, and I guess Nielsen hit him with a cheap shot, or I don't know the exact thing, but he hurt Fujiwara. So we did this show in I think it was a Tokyo Dome. You need to correct me on that, but I had a match against Don Nielsen, and that was the very first shoot in this organization. They wanted me to go in there and have a legit shoot with Nielsen to put him in his place, and Nielsen agreed to it. Nobody knew who I was. I wasn't anybody. Nielsen thought he would walk in and just take me apart, and what happened, was told through that match where I went in, took him down, and snapped his arm.
And so at that point, I mean, that you start saying that this works. I mean, we don't need to do this style anymore. I mean, they kind of started the organization. Were you involved at all in the planning or the organization of it all? Because obviously you were an early star with them.
I was, but because it was a Japanese company, I wasn't involved in the setup of it. But I was one of their main pieces as I talked to Suzuki and Funaki, and that they wanted to make sure that I kept the conversations between myself and them too, as we moved forward, because they would be making the decisions on who would go, who wouldn't go. Remember, I'd only had 3 or 4 fights at this time.
Right.
So I was fairly new, but because I had trained with Funaki and Suzuki, they realized that, that I would be a big piece in making this successful, because of my skill sets of learning so fast and picking things up really fast. They saw me becoming very, very quickly, one of the best. So they definitely wanted to make sure they locked me down before they made the split. Funaki came to me and said, "Hey, you come with us, right? Please." And I said, "Absolutely." Because after our first one, man, I was done. I mean, I did not want to go back to this work stuff because the adrenaline you got from going in there, knowing it was real in front of that many people and against an opponent who I would not be able to hold a candle to if we were strictly stand-up. I would have got lit up. But because it was a street fight, basically, I was able to beat this guy who was a world champion.
Yeah.
And from that point on, man, you couldn't get me to go back to the work style.
So when they presented you with the idea, I mean, okay, you're in, did you have faith in them? I mean, did you think we're really going to have real fights, or did you think like it's going to be kind of a shoot style, but we're still going to have works, or we're still going to have predetermined outcomes? I mean, did you believe we're really going to go have fights in this new organization?
I did, because I felt like, who's going to stop us? I mean, literally what I thought in my mind was like, I could literally challenge anybody, and they couldn't beat me. They couldn't beat Suzuki. They couldn't beat Funaki. They couldn't beat us. So that gave us the opportunity to challenge everybody in the world to come prove us wrong. We were holding the belt. They had to take it from us, because we could go out and say, "Listen, come in and fight with no rules, absolutely none. We'll fight you. Come prove us wrong." And that's literally what we did. And then UFC came in, and basically they were saying that they were the first ones. That's not true.
Right.
Because when I worked for these guys in Pancrase, that was our motto in Japan, because everybody, even the Shudo guys and even all the other guys, were saying how they were better, and we were saying, "Come on, let's come over here, fight, let's fight." And so because of the way our rules were, which was basically, especially when we had these like Nielsen fights and things like that, it was basically very, very little rules.
Right.
Because of the mixed style. They could kick, they could knee, they could elbow, they could do whatever they wanted. And of course we could do whatever, and I was able to do what I wanted, other than you got rope escapes and other things that were added into that. But when I fought Nielsen, that was what it was. I mean, he could elbow me, he could headbutt me, he could knee me, do whatever he wanted. Because that was what they wanted to make it even, and we said, absolutely, let's do it. And so for me, that was an exciting concept of fighting. Was like, okay, obviously we have a certain thing within our organization with rules and fighting people when they come into our company. But if we were taking on somebody else from another company or another area, it was literally, okay, what kind of rules are we working out and planning to make this fair? How do you guys want to proceed with this? Oh, you want that? Okay, fine. You want that? Okay, fine. Basically give them whatever they wanted because there was no way they would stop us.
So here's what was always intriguing to me, because as you said, it was before UFC 1, and I watched these first events, and the level of grappling between, as you said, Funaki, Suzuki, yourself, I mean, everybody that was there, the level of grappling was so high, and this is at a time when, UFC 1 showed the world that, these guys don't know grappling, and BJJ is going to change the world and all that. I'm assuming, I'm not a big pro wrestling guy, so I'm assuming pro wrestling must have been much different over in Japan, because you guys already had skills. Where were those skills coming from? I mean, how did you guys have that level when MMA hadn't even started yet?
Because in the Pancrase organization, it was a shoot. Yeah, we had to carry guys because they were coming in and they hadn't had experience, and I'm not going to name names. I don't want to upset people, because the last time I did it upset certain individuals. But because me and Funaki and me and Suzuki and maybe a couple other guys, even Takahashi, at a later stage, we were good. And some of these guys were coming in for the first time. And so some of them would come in and they'd have a great first match, and then Funaki would then put them with me, maybe their second or third match, and he said, hey, take them 12 minutes and then finish them. So there were times where we would carry guys, just because we wanted to build their name up,
right,
because we didn't have enough bodies or enough people that were at that level yet. And so we had to carry them a certain amount of distance to give them some experience and get some knowledge, which they didn't know. So in other words, we were in there giving up our bodies and hopefully not get caught with something and somebody gets a knockout or catches a knee, and then you get put down by accident, which has happened a couple times where guys were supposed to win, but they had to carry somebody and they got caught.
Right.
But that was something we were willing to do in order to build the organization up. Otherwise, we would have been destroying guys, a minute, 2 minutes in, and it's over. So we were still at a very young stage of trying to build fighters and trying to get fighters experience without telling them we were doing that.
It makes sense. How did you end up fighting Funaki in the first one? I mean, you guys he was kind of a mentor to you in a lot of ways, right? I mean, you guys definitely had a great relationship. Was that a difficult decision for you guys to decide to fight each other in the very first one? Absolutely
not. I mean, no, different mentality, man. I've always had them a different mentality. I know Funaki, the Japanese way, it is a lot of that anyways, is that if you do not show progress, if you do not challenge them after as much time they put into you, that's a disgrace.
Wow.
Your sensei, the person teaching you, you must say you go and fight him the first time and you have a good match and, he sees improvement. That's good. Say you fight him 3 times and that third time you don't beat him, or at least don't challenge to beat him. You're not making progress. Because your floor, as an instructor, your floor should be your student's ceiling, or the vice versa. I'm sorry, the vice versa.
Right.
Because otherwise, you're wasting your time on your student, right? So, it's the same thing with my guys. I remember Frank and had asked, I want to beat you someday, and I looked at him and I said, well, I hope so. It's like, all this training and everything you're putting in, 10, 12 years younger than me, you better, or otherwise I wasted my time. So no, it's definitely a different mindset. I mean, it hurts when it happens because you realize you're getting along in the tooth and things that you love to do are slowly slipping away. But at the same time, on the other side of that, you're happy that the person that you're training and you put your time into is progressing the way that you want, the way you knew they could.
So, but let me ask you, before that fight, 1993, they get September as the month. I've heard the story a million times about how you guys in the locker room at UFC 1, everybody was nervous and didn't know what to expect and all that. Was there a similar type feel at Pancrase 1? I mean, were there nerves and was there, a not knowing what to expect? I mean, was it a similar feel at all?
Yeah, I think it was, but not so much for me. Mine was when I fought Naka Nielsen. That was my time. But I was so confident at that point because of the training that I'd done and the shoot and stuff that I had done while I was in the dojo, shooting on different people that we brought in, Wayne Dukowski and people that we brought in from other countries to come and train there. We would always say, okay, show me what you got. And they always used me as the person to go in with these guys. And so I had already done this live a bunch of times. And so going in against Naka Nielsen was actually my first time going live in front of an audience.
Right.
And being able to go in and fight somebody. And then the next time was, obviously I had other things I had done before I got there, street fights, bare knuckle fighting, other things I did prior to that. But as far as in a crowd on a big stage, the second time was, really against Don Naka Nielsen, where, I went in there and it was literally, anything goes. I mean, he could have done whatever he wanted to do because it was a kickboxing referee. It was pretty much all dominant on one side because where we were at with Fujiwara, we really hadn't had a foothold on Japan at all. So going into this arena, fighting Naka Nielsen, they were using every rule and every aspect of the fight game to give him the advantage. But going into that, I knew no matter what they did, they couldn't stop me.
That first show, it's amazing. Obviously you, Funaki, Suzuki, Boss Rutan was there, which is crazy. I mean, you guys are both in the UFC Hall of Fame. I'm curious, when you saw Boss, I mean, he didn't come from the same world, so were you immediately impressed? I mean, did you see the talent in this guy, or did that take a while to develop?
No, actually, I was impressed. He knocked out his first opponent. It was impressive, right? And then, and again, remember, when I fought him, I'd had 4 fights under my belt. Like, I'm not exact, but maybe 4 to 6 months or something I had under my belt when I fought him the first time. But I had learned very quickly because I trained a lot and got good very quickly. And I remember watching Boss where he knocked out his opponent. I was like, wow. Well, then I don't remember how long it was after, but it wasn't very long after that they put him in the ring with me. And so when I get in the ring with him, it's like, you want me to do what? And this dude hit like a friggin' mule. And so here I am fighting this guy. We go 12 minutes, and then I catch him in a rear naked choke. The next time I fight him, it's a year or a year and a half later, and he's much better. And I beat him in 30 seconds with a knee bar.
Right.
Now, you tell me what sounds right.
That's tough. You two guys were the best in the game at that point.
Boss was a tremendous athlete when it came to combat. And I had thought, if he would have stayed with the UFC, but he had injuries too, so I understand why. But I thought, without a shadow of a doubt, there's no question that he would have dominated his weight class. No question.
Yeah, he was incredible. What about Funaki and Suzuki? You think those are guys that maybe didn't get the credit they deserve as martial artists?
No question, but the difference between Funaki and Suzuki is that neither one of those guys like to get hit. I mean, they did not like it. And the one thing about the UFC and the way the rules played out is you couldn't grab the ropes. There weren't any. You couldn't even grab the fence to stand up, So for those guys to be good at that, they would have to be, we would have a strong chin and not be afraid to get hit. And not that they were afraid. I don't want to say afraid. They just didn't like to get hit.
Right.
They were more concerned with brain damage and head trauma more than myself or Takahashi. Whereas that we almost begged for that. Like, yeah, hit me, get me started. Whereas Funaki didn't like that, and Suzuki definitely didn't like that. He never even, in fact, Suzuki never even trained in kickboxing. I remember him and Takahashi and Funaki used to argue about him training more and getting more well-rounded, and he would always say he didn't like it because he was good enough just being a grappler that he could get by just doing that. And of course, now that the way the world has evolved and the way we see it now, There's no way. But that's the reason why I don't think that they were able to come over to the UFC, was because of the bare knuckle aspect of it. And guys that were great wrestlers could take you down, and that would eliminate Suzuki, because guys like Mark Coleman or even Kevin Randleman or Kevin Jackson, or, you know, you get my drift.
Yeah.
The Olympic-style guys that would take him down and just pummel him with punches, no matter how good his submission skills were. These guys were picking up on how to stay safe and how to stay out of chokes and triangles and all those other things and be able to pummel people. And so it wouldn't have worked out well. But I do believe Funaki had, out of Suzuki and Funaki, I believe Funaki had the best skills to be able to move into that world of UFC or MMA, because he was so well-rounded. But I just don't think he liked the idea of getting hit with a bare fist.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So the first three events, I mean, you guys rattle off three events pretty quickly in Pancrase. And again, this is all before UFC 1. Do you remember what the reception was like at that time? I mean, were people liking it? Were they criticizing it? Were they curious? I mean, what was the reception like at those first three events?
Well, it was the same as it was here when UFC started up. You had the people that were in the K1, pro wrestling. All these people were trying to say that it was unsafe, that, you know, they shouldn't be able to do that. There was a lot of resistance from the bigger players, so we were forced into doing smaller buildings. But just like with where we're at with bare knuckle, if people like it, it don't matter what arena you go to. You can go to one that has 4 seats in it. As long as you can get it to the public and they like it, you can't stop it. So that's kind of what happened with Pancrase, was when it did come out and it was being seen by people and by news reporters and publicists. They were publicizing it. They were pushing it out there in front. And so people just started talking and wanting to see it. And that forced other venues to open up, because money talks louder, and it gives power for these things to start flourishing. And that's basically what happened, was that, you know, we bided our time. We went and did our shows. We stayed in smaller venues. But because of the excitement, the popularity of this kind of fighting, it pushed us straight up into controlling all of Japan.
It's pretty wild, man. It was a great run. I got to ask you about UFC 1. I had seen this before, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. But, I mean, you fought in Japan on Monday, and then you fight in the UFC on Friday in the United States. Is that? I mean, what an insane week. How did you even – I mean, why did you do that? It just seems crazy.
Yeah, and actually I defended my title against Fouquet. I knocked him out with a knee. Jumped on a plane, flew to Denver, Colorado. I got there, 3 or 4 days before the event was supposed to happen. It's, a mile high up there, with the mindset that it isn't really going to happen. Like, there's no way. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people are just way too young to remember it, but the only time you saw anything like this was in movies or in a street fight, where it lasted 30 seconds.
Right.
So it just didn't seem like it could happen. Like, it just, to me, it was like, how are you going to allow somebody to just walk up and kick somebody in the head on the ground? I said, I just don't see it. And so going into this thing, I was like, okay, I'm going to go. I brought a Japanese team with me for cuts, for cornering, things of that nature. And so the whole time I get there is like, 3 or 4 days before the event, we go and do this press conference, and it started to get almost like weird, because they started to take things away. There's supposed to be no holds barred, anything goes. So they tell me I can't wear my shoes, and I'm like, what? Yeah, no shoes. And I'm like, why? They go, because it's a weapon. And I was like, okay. Not understanding the whole concept that's going on yet.
Right.
I was like, okay, I get it. All right, cool, all right. But it's supposed to be anything goes, right? There's no rules. There's no time limit. Anything goes. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of odd, but all right, whatever. There's nobody going to beat me anyways. And then they take away Frazier's kick pads, his shin guards.
Right.
And I was like, how is that a weapon? It's like, if anything, you're creating more of a weapon, right? And so all this stuff's going in my head, but I'm so focused on waiting to hear them say, oh, and by the way, this is how it's going to work, right? So I'm kind of saying, just kind of blowing everything off, just waiting for the big punch of like, okay, this is how it works. But it never came. They just kept taking things away from certain guys, like, and not knowing at the time that this was a promotion for, you know, the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
I didn't have an understanding of that. But all of a sudden, I go up and I say, hey, why are they taking my shoes away? And they tell me, well, you know, they can't do it because the lace is on there, and, you know, it could be, you know, used as a weapon, and this and that. And I was like, well, what if I don't kick? Well, no, can't have that. And so I was like, okay. I said, so this is really happening, right? So people can kick you on the ground, do all these things. And he said, yeah, absolutely, just no shoes, you know. And I was like, okay. But I should have fought back more on it because it did say no rules, anything goes. But at the time, I was just, all I wanted to do was be able to have an opportunity to fight in this. Like, this is no rules, anything goes, no time. And I'm like, I want in on this. And so all of a sudden, we get up in front of this press conference the day before or something. I don't remember the exact day, but day before or something. Start doing a punching pad, and Starby starts testing their skills. And I'm looking around the room, and I'm like, man, half these guys just got off a bar stool. And the other half are, I'm not sure who they are. And so I knew, Gerard Godot, I knew him. I didn't really know the sumo, but heard of him. But everybody else, I was like, I don't know him. So I thought, like, okay, I'm going to kill these guys. And I go in there. Patrick Smith, I heard of his record. I did all these things. I'm like, whatever. You know, he ain't got the credentials, the guy that I fought in Japan. He doesn't have his credentials. So go down, I heel hooked him and stood over him wanting more. Then I go out and get Hoist right after, not knowing who I was going to fight up until that night because they kept changing the brackets around. And nobody really knew who they were fighting when or how or what. I was moved 4 times and never knew when I was fighting.
Wow.
And so finally they got it set. I found out an hour before I go to actually go to the arena what the brackets were. And so I go in against Hoist, and I remember taking him down and going to sit in, and my feet were like on ice. I mean, I could not get footing.
Right.
It was slick. And especially since I'd never gone without shoes, right?
Yeah.
I just never gone without wrestling shoes. And so it was a much different surface. And then I found out the level of grappling experience that Hoist had while I was in the middle of trying to get my footing and while I was trying to sit back for a leg lock. My feet were slipping everywhere. But I do know this and it's just my thought process. And whatever people want to say, they have their own opinion. But my opinion is if I would have had my shoes on in that first one, it would have been like the second one, the fight we had.
Yeah.
I would have been able to just punish him into oblivion. But because I sat back for a leg and lost my footing and gave him that top position, then he turned his gi into a rope. It wasn't his arms, it wasn't his hands, it was his gi that wrapped around my throat and choked me with the gi. Because if it was arms or hands or anything, I could have pulled it off. I would have broken out of it and then smashed him some more. But because it was that gi, and I didn't understand how he had worked it and what was going on, I'm trying to pull this gi that you're not going to pull off. And then I thought to myself, and this was all in split seconds of like, I knew I made a mistake because I didn't have footing. And then when he was choking me, I was thinking, how is this not a weapon? I'm being choked with a rope.
Yep, that's so true.
Yeah. But again, when you're dealing with that kind of stuff, you're a young fighter. The system has already worked against you. It's rigged against you going into it, which is not – I really didn't know how bad it was until after, we had gotten into the UFC, the second, third fight, that I realized this was just something that the Gracies were promoting for themselves. And not to say is that, listen, I don't want people to get off on the wrong foot here, but they were good.
Yeah.
People do not doubt that they were good. But I do believe it would have been a much different outcome if I would have had my shoes. And again, you got to think about this, and I tell people all the time, listen, it's not like I didn't have an opportunity to win, even though his skill sets were 25 years compared to my 2.5 years. And my, experience behind that, I had zero, as far as he had his father's 50 years and grandfather's 50 years of experience of doing this. So it was already working against me. So for any advantage that they were able to put on Royce's side, people always laugh at when they say, "Oh, shoes," And that was a huge, huge advantage when it came to as much experience as I had opposed to his experience and his family's experience.
Yep.
Going into that fight, I needed everything to at least be even going into that fight for me to have a chance.
Classic
and
moment.
then people talk. I want to fit this in too. People talk about the weight difference. You can sit here and I think people know already, the ones that are not biased on the Gracies, know that they always play with the weights. They don't ever give you a true weight. If you watch me and Royce get up in the second fight that me and him, when I pummeled him and blackened his eye and beat him up, he's an inch taller than me. His shoulders are wider than mine. And so for people to say, well, he was 155, 160 pounds, and I was 190 something at the time, he was at least plus 180. There is no question. So for people saying he's 170, that's not true. You can't look at that frame and tell me that's what he weighed.
It's true. I think he's a lot bigger than people realize. I mean, you see him hanging around Bellator events now. He's a bigger guy than I think people recognize.
Yeah, that's right. And then again, the Bellator too, which I didn't know at the time. I'm a little bit disappointed in that. Was that he was already with them when I fought him there, and then they had their own referee who was a BJJ practitioner, which I didn't know at the time. The one that actually called that fight and then missed the nut shot.
Right, no question. Well, let me ask you, Ken, after UFC 1, I mean, legendary moment, you go back to Japan. You have a lengthy career there. And the thing that always people talk about with Pancrase were their works. And you said, hey, we had to carry some people. We had to help people develop, So I guess for people that are watching and trying to see, I mean, were there works or was it sometimes when I look at it, I mean, you said we had to carry some people, and I feel like maybe some of the guys try to sell some stuff every now and then. Is that just maybe some of that pro wrestling flair that was still part of the game back then?
Not in Pancrase. No, not in Pancrase. The people that should have won. And like I said, there was some very. I mean, it was only 2 times that I had to do it, but it wasn't done for anybody that couldn't have beat me. That had an opportunity to beat me, somebody that was as good as I was.
Right.
But because of some injuries and some things they had to go through, that was just a call that the upper management had to make, and I went along with it. But other than that, man, it was all straight. It was literally, that's what you got to see. The winner always won who would have won, period.
Yeah, that's awesome. Why did you ultimately leave? In 1996, I think, was the last time you fought there. I mean, obviously you went on to Pride and more UFC, and I mean, a great career. But Pancrase, they're still hosting events to this day. Why did you end up leaving the organization?
I think a lot of it had to do was that because they didn't appreciate me wanting to spread my wings. My contract allowed it, but for whatever reason, they thought it was bringing a bad light on their organization because I would go in and I got beat. And I thought to myself, what are you talking about? This is national recognition.
Right.
And so I think they saw it wrong because that's what got them popular was the UFC. And me being in the UFC, that got Pancrase' name well known. And that's how Boss Root and all these other guys were able to come over and fight in the UFC because that's where I came from.
Yep.
And it gave them huge recognition on the great fighters coming out of Pancrase. But they didn't want me to do that because they thought it was going to be bad on them because I lost to Royce the first time. And I was like, hey, I got caught. I'm going to go back. I'm going to do it again. And they were like, no. And I was like, I'm not going to walk away from this. I'm going to finish what I started. And they didn't like that. They didn't want me to go back.
That's crazy. So when you look back on it, I mean, obviously you've a legendary career in combat sports, but do you think about that time fondly, or is it frustrating because of the way it ended? Or, I mean, how will you remember that time of your life?
Yeah, I think both. It was frustrating because again, it's not frustration in a point to where it bothers me that much. I think the thing that bothers me more is not the necessary of that, but it's the people not acknowledging what they did. That's the frustrating. Even though it's very clear and it's there, everybody knows it. But it's that they won't acknowledge it. They won't say, "Yeah, it was an opportunity for us." I mean, could you blame them? I mean, I don't hate them for it. I mean, heck, if I had an opportunity to put an organization together and highlight the Lions Den and stack things in my favor, not cheating, but just stacking things in my favor, and they go along with it, I'm doing it, right? So
Right.
That's not the point. The point is that they keep trying to say it didn't happen.
What was the best moment for you? Was it the King of Pancrase win, or was there another moment that maybe stood out to you for a particular reason?
Well, I think being the first of anything is always something that it can't be replaced, right?
Right.
So being very appreciative, crossing over, in pro wrestling and crossing over to MMA or MMA into pro wrestling, wrestling into MMA, however people want to look at it with Vince Torelli or whatever. But being the first there to really make an impact, being the first Pancrase champion. Being the first UFC champion, any weight class, whether you want to call it a super fight or whatever, but it was a single fight championship that leads into every other single fight championship, however you want to call that. So for me, it was, and being in the very first UFC, starting it all. These are all memories that will never, ever change and can never be replaced. You can always have another champion, but you can't always have another first.
That's right. That's awesome, man. Well, Ken, I appreciate taking the trip down memory lane. I know it's a weird time in the world for everybody, but is Valor Bare Knuckle, is that still on the horizon once we get this world back up and running?
Yeah, actually, we were getting ready to announce our next show, and this came up, so we can't really announce it because we don't know how long this thing's going to go for. But yeah, all we did, so people understand what was going on, was that we were basically doing a first one for advertising,
right?
And basically launching Valor Business for investors and people that want to come in and be involved with us. So we did one show so they could see what it looked like with the pit, all the new innovative things that we were doing for bare knuckle boxing. So that way, people that were going to invest with us would see what it is we're doing and why they would invest with us, because we are different. We're exciting, and that we are very professionally run. So being able to put our business plan together after we did our first one with and you guys will see it because a lot of our stuff is going to be going up. And we're taking our time now because of this virus. But we will have the look will be the same, but our setup, our organization, everything we're doing with the business and the sponsors and the investors will all have a place, and it'll be a very professional business plan.
That's awesome, man. Well, brother, I appreciate it, man. I always appreciate the time from you, and and once you get Valor going again, and we all get back to normal business, let's talk again and help you promote it once that's ready to go.
I appreciate that.
No worries, King. I'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you, sir. There you go, the world's most dangerous man. That was, I really enjoyed that, to be honest with you. Masakatsu Funaki, Minoru Suzuki, man. If you don't know these names, check them out, man. Super talented, kind of early area mixed martial artists.
Frank Duke.
Yeah, come on, man. Suzuki especially was a badass, man. This dude was just a cool looking cat. Funaki was kind of the badass at the time. I don't know, man. I love all that stuff, and I'm gonna actually. For those of you guys over at patreon.com /the MMA Roadshow, I got a couple clips that I've obtained of some fights that I want to share with you. So we'll have a couple little John's favorite fights behind the scenes.
I like it.
We'll post those over there on the Patreon and share some, like I said, give you some fights to watch and maybe take some history. Now, I will say this. He talked about the fact that, they kind of carried some guys here and there. I had always heard that the fight with Matt Hume, of course, if you know, Matt Hume is now famous as Demetrius Johnson's trainer. He was a fighter before they fought in Pancrase. I had always heard that was one. And if you go back and watch it, you can kind of see a little bit where it looked like Ken did kind of carry him a little bit. I'd always heard one of the fights with Suzuki. He was an issue where he was concerned about. So I think Suzuki was carrying some injuries into that fight, so he had to be careful with him there. And I don't know what he said. I didn't, because he said initially I don't want to name specific names, but when he mentioned Boss's name and the second fight, it sounded to me like they had an agreement that fight was going to end quick. Maybe Boss, and I'm going to try to reach out to Boss and catch up with him as well. That maybe there was something going on there with an injury. It's funny, if you go watch that fight, it's their rematch, and this is interesting thing about adding in these analog tapes and stuff is stuff disappears, man. So if you go back and watch that fight, literally all that exists is an overhead camera. So it's just literally just an overhead shot. It looks like you're watching like an Atari game or something.
Yeah.
Two of the greatest mixed martial artists of that generation, and the only thing that's there is one overhead camera.
Yeah,
so
it's lost to history. That's
it
what,
is.
if you haven't dubbed all those VHS tapes to something by now, just the materials breaks down, man. So that stuff that's old and old and old, soon
away.
It's just going to be unusable. It's not like at one point, you're going to try to play it in the VCR and it's just going to be
I'd always
terrible.
heard that it's like, I'd always in my head at least thought that like, well, it's just that it wears out from overplay, but it's not just, even if it's in storage, like it just deteriorates.
It deteriorates,
right?
yeah. I'm sure the more you bring it out and play it, the more wear and tear. But yeah, it's still just over time just deteriorates, just the materials.
Crazy. All right, listen, as far as mixed martial arts this weekend, of course, we know that there's nothing going on. I will say that we do have Submission Underground 11 on Sunday. So if you want to, if you're jonesing for a little bit of grappling action at the very least, I was trying to talk to Chael Sonnen. He's been busy as always. He did send me the latest card. Jake Ellenberger is on there. Craig Jones is supposed to grapple with Kevin Casey, so that should be interesting. He did say, listen, we've had a lot of changes, man.
We should get him.
They're trying to
get
have
him on an interview.
Who's that?
Chael.
That's what I'm saying. I was trying to get Chael, but he's been like super busy.
Get on him.
I don't know. I don't know if he necessarily wanted to talk about it because
Probably not. I mean, I can see where a lot of people are like, let's just make it happen and let's not talk about it.
That's kind of the
But those are a lot of good questions that he can answer.
He was texting back and forth with me, but then I was like, bro, we should get on the phone for a little bit, and then he wouldn't text me back.
Yeah.
So I was like,
even better. How about having your mug on the video screen?
Yeah, I don't think he wants. But yeah, once this gets done, maybe he'll want to talk about it a little bit more. But listen, that will be on Fight Pass, so I'll be watching that. I did want to give a quick shout out to David Elmore. He recommended the McMillions podcast. I told you last week I've been watching McMillions.
Yep.
There's a companion podcast that normally I would never, ever, ever have time to listen to. But right now, I have all the time in the world. So I actually went back and listened to some of the podcasts as well. So pretty cool. Still like McMillions. I wanted to give, real quick as well, I don't know necessarily a recommendation, but I kind of enjoyed it. I watched a movie, and I never watch movies because I never have time.
Whoa.
I watched a movie called Yesterday. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I really
loved
liked it.
I actually saw that on a plane, and then I think I watched it after. But that was one of the plane movies I watched.
It was fun. I'll read the synopsis here. It says,
awesome.
Jack Malik is a struggling singer-songwriter in an English seaside town whose dreams of fame are rapidly fading despite the fierce devotion and support of his childhood best friend Ellie. After a freak bus accident during a mysterious global blackout, Jack wakes up to discover that the Beatles have never existed. Performing songs by the greatest band in history to a world that has never heard them, Jack becomes an overnight sensation with a little help from his agent. So basically, he's hit by a bus,
yeah.
and all of a sudden he wakes up to a world where the Beatles have never existed, so he's playing Beatles songs, and people are like, wow, that's amazing.
Dude, that is the brilliant song.
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoyed it.
Yesterday.
I liked it.
All my troubles seem so far away.
That's amazing. Did you write that?
I did. never. I mean, yes, I did write that.
I enjoyed it.
It's a good movie.
It's a fun movie. If you're
It's
just
a
looking for
fun
something
movie.
kind of fun, I mean, obviously, it's it's a fantasy movie. Dude, I'll tell you what's funny. I was googling that because I wanted to get the synopsis so I could write that down. So I googled yesterday the movie.
Yeah.
And so it comes up, and that's on the right hand side. And then you know how like you get like the box of like people also asked, and it's Google saying what people also asked about that movie. And one of the top answers was, "Is Yesterday based on a real story?" I'm like, he wakes up in a world where the Beatles have never existed.
That would be no.
That would be no. That's not a real story, you jackass. And the fact that enough people have asked it that it registered in Google makes me think that maybe the pandemic isn't that bad and we need to get rid of some of the crap a little bit. You know? What I'm saying?
No,
It's fun.
Such a good movie, and the lead actors are awesome. I thought the lead actor Himesh Patel, I thought he was awesome. English actor, a brown man, but he was fantastic. I love it when movies now are not just choosing some good-looking white dude to play like the role.
Yeah.
And he was fantastic, man.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so
That's
good.
true, because his ethnicity played no, you know what I mean?
No part at all.
No part in the movie. It's just a dude. I love
I
hadn't
that.
thought about it, but it's
more
nice,
more
right?
movies are starting to do that, and I applaud them. And I thought he was fantastic. He's been in a bunch of other stuff. But dude, it was such a lighthearted, fun movie. But I think
That's
anybody,
it. It was lighthearted and fun, which is kind of what we need right now, right?
Anybody that likes the Beatles will totally get a kick because all of us would be like, man, I wish that was me.
If it was a normal week, I'd probably be like, this movie's dorky.
So what did you think?
But I enjoyed it.
It also has a cameo, and I thought he did a fantastic job. Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. Oh, Ed Sheeran did great.
He was fantastic.
Ed Sheeran's phenomenal in this.
Because, I mean, I don't want to ruin it for you folks, but he's in it as well.
He has a great cameo.
And the relationship between them, I mean, it was so good.
So I'm
this
just
makes me
want to
go fucking watch it.
It is a non-typical recommendation from me, but
it's
saw it
totally
with my family,
a non-MMA movie.
I really like it. I usually live in the bubble. If you're looking for something lighthearted and entertaining, if you like the Beatles music especially, which I don't know how you wouldn't, there you go. So I didn't tell you to prep anything, but
movies,
you got any movie, TV shows, any from inside stuck in the house things that people need to watch?
Oh man, I started watching some other like night sci-fi thing. It was Letter to the King or something. I just started that actually last night. It's a series. It's got a young actor that was in another show that I recently just watched. The remake of sort of the Golden Compass, which I now already can't remember. The one I recommended last time.
Right.
One of the actors in it. I think Netflix does a really good job, maybe, of reusing the actors in different series. So this kid's in another one, and this one's more back in the time of knights, and he wants to be a knight, and it's got this cool little story. But actually, put that on. It's called Letter to the King or something, where he's wannabe knight, and he has to take this letter to the king, or the kingdom's gonna fall to this evil prince, blah 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 blah. And I played it, and actually Agent H actually kind of was into it too, which normally.
So it's basically like 1917, like that.
Yeah,
one.
that's when
the whole plot. That one, you got to take a letter to these people. Or whatever?
Yeah. It's literally he just never makes it to the post office. For some reason, his horse never shows up to the post office. He must not have had the right postage or something. He had to sword fight for a right stamp or something. But no, I mean, yeah, I would have did some research and find something better, but that's literally just something we popped on last night.
That's off the top of the head, man.
Literally just off the top. We just watched that last night.
We're not trying to be fancy. We're just trying to say what's up.
Yeah, there were no new Magnums. There were no new Picards. Some other ones, my typical wheelhouse. Now it's getting to the point, that's the problem, is like, what haven't you watched?
Right.
You go to your Netflix and all your shows, you're probably all caught up, and then you're like, okay, we got to start looking at other stuff. And man, Agent H finds the most random ass weird reality shows that I can't watch it. I can't deal with it. But she's been, you know what show I've kind of forgot about, and that she does watch some, is like The Voice, and like American Idol. The Voice now has Nick Jonas on it.
Okay.
And it's actually pretty good. Like, it's got Nick Jonas, John Legend, Kelly, and I forget the country guy's name, Blake Shelton.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship is actually pretty awesome. The fun seeing the banter, but the singers now, they're all really, really good. A lot of the ones that go on, it used to be like you'd had one good singer or something. They clearly won the season, but I've been having fun watching that one as well. Just seeing that. It's just cool to see that there's still really, really super talented people out there doing really cool stuff. So
I dig it. Well, there you go. There's our recommendations.
Yesterday. Now I'm gonna have to go watch Yesterday again.
It's good, man. I enjoyed it. If you're looking on Fight Pass, I would say to go along with that Ken Shamrock piece. Again, yes, we are hybrid wrestlers. Watch Pancrase 1, 2, and 3. It's a piece of history. Those all happened before UFC 1, which I think is cool, man. I think a lot of people don't realize there was, these events before UFC 1. So go watch those 3 events. They're all really fast, too. Go watch those. And also, I'm working on a new piece for MMA Junkie that we're going to have out in April.
Does your wife know?
Wow. A piece of video that we're going to have out in April, and we'll talk about that next week. But while I was doing it, I was going back and watching some old events. If you're looking for just a random event to throw on that had like some awesome finishes and just some historical fights, watch Pride Bushido 10, an all-time classic event in terms of like just some violent endings and yeah, if you're just
Pride
looking
had
for a
some
random
violence, some serious violence, and some Pride stuff.
Pride had some crappy fights along the way. Like everybody's like, "Oh, Pride never die." Like it's funny if you go back and watch all Prides, like you'll realize like there were some really shitty fights.
Yeah, you realize how much nostalgia makes you put certain colored glasses on when you watch it. Like everything's rosy, everything was awesome.
They had some shitty cards, but there's some really good ones, and Pride Bushido 10's one of them.
Yeah, it's funny. Earlier when you were joking around, it's funny. I don't know why when you were talking about Ken Shamrock for some reason Frank Dukes popped in my head. But the other day, Bloodsport was on. It was so funny because Bloodsport and Kickboxer came up really close, and they're two different people.
Right.
But it was played by the same actor, one Jean-Claude Van Damme, which our good friend Fernando Pancrase used to be absolutely obsessed with him.
Sure.
But it's funny, I hadn't watched Kickboxer in so long. And I watched it, and it was just so laughable kind of watching it. But I remember at the time, when it first came out and I watched it, I remember thinking, like, this is the most badass fighting. And you watch it now, and it's like a really bad MMA fight.
Dude,
like, it's terrible.
Bloodsport to me was, transformative, dude. Like, that was the shit.
Yeah, Kickboxer was not so great compared.
Bloodsport was the one. All right, well, there you go. That's what you need to catch up with. Hopefully you guys like the lengthier interviews. Like I said, we could sit here and talk about stuff, but not that there's not stuff to talk about, but I don't know, man. During this time when we're slowing down a little bit, I think maybe a couple lengthier interviews here and there might not be the worst case to do. So let me know what you think. Obviously, you can always hit me up on @MMA Junkie John on Twitter. Always happy. My DMs are open. You can hit me up with your.
You don't have to slide up in there. You just
slide up in there. They're open.
No lube required.
Wow, that is good, man. It's the cold frosty beverages are flowing here.
Feel free to keep your suggestions, just like the McMillions.
I was going to say,
keep your suggestions.
Keep those going. And, of course, if you can go over to patreon.com/MMA Roadshow, that's where we're really, you're VIP right there. You come over there.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen for you.
And plus, like we said, we're going to do some Q&As and stuff. We'll probably do one or so for everybody that's a member, but definitely for the upper tiers, we're going to do some QA.
No question about it.
Fun little back and forth stuff we can do.
No question about it. So there you go. All right, listen. No and a half this weekend, but like I said, over at patreon.com/MMA Roadshow, we will have some additional content that's rolling out over the weekend. Hopefully you can join us over there. In the meantime, thanks for listening.